Alex. It's good to see you. I'm excited to talk with you. So just give me a little bit about you and your background. And you're coming to me from LA, right?
Yeah, from Los Angeles.
Said when you and I spoke before, the last 20 years, you've been focusing on symphonies and orchestras marketing, correct?
Yes.
So can you just share a little bit about that work, experiences, and what have you seen change or not change over the last 20 some years?
Mhm. Well, I think that we can see visually, if you were attending it passes the eye test, the audience has been getting older and older. And that's all you need to know right there, basically. But if you really look at stats, and I have a few stats that I wanted to share with you, Angela,
Yeah,
that
please.
kind of show this, and I read this in artsjournal.com, where I first discovered it. But there were the classical music audience has been aging for even before our time. I mean, starting in the 50s, really, it started aging. And I did want to get into the reasons, some of the theories behind that. But yes, and citing studies, one regional study in Michigan and two in Minnesota with groups that are associated with the Minnesota Orchestra. In 1937, there was a regional study done, and the average age of the audience was of that classical audience was 27 years old
That
in
was in 1937.
1937. Yeah, and that's from a book by Grant and Hettinger, are the authors of it. And the average age in America then was 29.
Wow.
And then the next study they cited was in 1955, the group associated with the Minnesota Orchestra. That regional study, the average age was 33. And the average age in America had only gone up to 30 by that time. So classical music was starting to age a bit then. And then in the 60s, a similar study, the average age was 38, but the average age in America was still 30. And then the last one I wanted to cite was the New York Philharmonic did a study of their audience in 2019, and the average age of the audience was 57. The average age in America is 38 right now. So we can see it's advanced far past that. So, using that as a basic guide.
Yeah,
See,
I mean, so a couple things come to mind that's interesting. One, when we talk about aging audiences, and you think about today, the average age of a symphony orchestra attendee, they're older. We think of the older demographic, but correct me if I'm wrong. It's not as if you reach a certain age and then all of a sudden you think, oh, let's go to the symphony. Let's become symphony subscribers, right? So talk to me a little bit about this. Whereas when you're saying the average age back in 37 was 27, but the median age was 29, right? That's kind of, you're sort of with that older or that median population, but it was aging up.
every decade,
Right.
apparently.
So is there any, I'm like stammering here because I'm trying to wrap my head around it. I
What are
mean,
the reasons? What are the
yeah,
reasons
why?
for it? That's what you're getting towards. And every generation has some new challenge, I think. You could say in the 50s, it was rock and roll became popular. Maybe that took some of the uh, audience away. That's somebody else's theory that I read, and that's interesting. Video game culture, as in our time, video game culture, preponderance. Well, the expansion of media choices obviously also presents a challenge for us now, and the accenting of visual, so much in visuals in the last 30 years, maybe. But also the internet. Obviously, the speed of digital communication and the ease of getting instant gratification works against us. And the speed, just the general speed of digital communication works against classical. So all these things have been challenges for a long time. So, I mean, those are some of the theories, but the main theory, I think, Angela, is cuts to cultural arts education in the public school systems in America. That, I believe, still is the main problem, in spite of all these other challenges.
Simply the matter of exposure at a young age to give individuals that opportunity to know that it even exists, right?
Get comfortable with it, yeah. In a
Yeah,
social setting, if you're listening to it in a classroom amongst your peers, you're acclimating yourself as you're growing up.
yeah. So, what did you see the pandemic do to the sector?
Uh-huh. It further hastened the aging, and but they showed the NEA has the National Endowment for the Arts has shown that we've been losing younger people for years, and they really started keeping stats in the 1980s, and they showed by the end of the 80s we had lost 50% of the under 30 age demographic, and which is I think comes out to 25% of the overall audience,
Mhm.
and but that's been happening for years, but the video game era expansion of media choices. Now we have MTV and we have everything else and YouTube and everything else that comes on. So all that hastened that about. And but the pandemic brought it about more acutely, and it made it more acute, but it had already been happening. 80% of this had already happened before the pandemic. The pandemic just made it a lot worse faster for a lot of people.
So, we in the arts, what did we do seeing that this had been going on for a while? And I like to compare the creative sector to any industry, right? Well, it's an industry, it's a sector. And I would imagine that if a brand or retail or, any other sector was losing their customer at that rate, you would do a hard look inwardly and think we got to do something, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, we're losing 90% of first-time attendees. The League of American Orchestra study is accurate. As far as classical performances, not pops, but classical performances, we're still losing 9 out of 10. It's been documented, right? And we're not acclimating the younger kids. And like we were talking about earlier with like the people that were listening to classical music as they were growing up in the 40s and 50s, and we have to replace that. And the younger people are looking to us to do that. And the way to do that is with marketing, communication, and education. We have to assume the role of the educators in that uh, it's not being done for us by the public school system, certainly.
mhm,
And we have to change the types of education that we give kids. Training kids to be musicians is fantastic,
right.
but we need to train them and how to be listeners and how to appreciate classical music, because that's why they're not coming, is that they're not comfortable in the classical music setting, and not just young people, but middle-aged people too. And they continue to tell us, well, we don't know how to dress. Have you heard that? We don't know how to dress when
Yes.
we come. Yeah, we don't know how to dress. That's the superficial thing that masks the real problem. The deep problem is they don't know how to, they're just not comfortable in the live classical music setting. I mean, I know attorneys that are 50 years old that don't want to come to hear classical music because it's just something about we need to acclimate them, and they like classical music. And as I have talked to people, and I've seen your podcast, they're brilliant, talking to younger people, saying we want this, we're interested in classical music, but we're just not sure on how to attend.
100%. So my daughter is 15 and there's a young artist who is on tour and she sings contemporary or not contemporary jazz, because a lot of it's like historical. And we got tickets to nearby in Pittsburgh, and 30 minutes after we purchased the tickets for this summer, my daughter had this dejected look on her face, and I'm like, "What?" And she, felt really bad to say she wasn't, thought she wasn't gonna be appreciative, but, "Mom, this concert isn't the typical concert that I was expecting." And I said, "What do you mean?" And she said, "She's playing with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra." And it was just this one after the other stereotypical, everybody's gonna be old, no one's gonna look like me, I won't be able to sing, she probably won't play any songs that I perform any songs that I'm aware of, and it's,
Yeah.
what, 30, 45 minutes? Because orchestras don't play that long, I'm used to a longer concert. Anyway, it was, like, hitting every note, and she went on the symphony's website and the artist's website, neither which had any type of communication that spoke her language, that in fact this is something for you and your demographic. So she wanted me to sell the tickets before I'd even gotten them in my inbox. And it wasn't until I found a clip on YouTube of this artist playing with another symphony, I think it was the LA Philharmonic, and I just said, do me a favor and just check this out. And the response was, if this
Mhm.
is what she does in Pittsburgh, I'll be happy. What are we missing there?
Yeah,
Al?
her conception, yeah, we've not marketed ourselves to them. They're asking for a number of things, young people. And like you just said, they're asking for a number of things. And that experience that she had is perfect. Now I'm happy that she'll entertain coming. Yeah, that's not going to ruin everything, and you're going to enjoy
Well,
it.
her mom is a little forceful, I would say unforgiving. I mean, this is what I spend all day long talking about, Alex, and the fact that it hit home very personally. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm living the real time story of what's missing out there. But you
Yeah.
tell me, as the marketing expert, what's missing.
Well, the thank you. But the younger people I talk to want classical music, and they understand that it represents quality of life and more intrinsic values, and a better community. It makes the community more competitive economically. Groups are discussing when international companies are discussing where to put their next plant. Microsoft, they're not Microsoft, software chip plant, whatever it is, whatever car manufacturing. The quality of life is something they take into consideration. And a city that has a high cultural activity rate and healthy culture retains the best and the brightest of the workforce. Kids understand that, but really that's economics. They want something that's of greater value. Well, they're putting down their cell phones by the time they get to 24, 25, and they're saying, wait a minute, I have to have, they're realizing more things when they get to their 20s, and that they need to be they want to be part of a community. They want to be part, and they realize that classical music is one of those things that has that intrinsic quality, that has the values they're looking for. And we talk to them. You and I both talk to young people all the time about this, and they want what the symphony has, but they're scared of it, and they're not being marketed to. And that goes back to the educational part of this, where they weren't acclimated, as people in the 40s and 50s were, to classical music. So they have the same conception of it that your daughter has. It's only
Mhm.
old people, the playground of the rich, and it's a very stuffy atmosphere. They don't know how to dress. They don't know when to clap. But those are superficial things. They're just uncomfortable with the whole concept of it in an overall way. And I've found that in selling subscriptions, well, I mean, in anything, in selling subscriptions, you have to educate that single ticket buyer. And I think so education is a key on a micro level, and it's a key on a macro level. The same messaging that we've been using since 1955 is not going to work. It's not working.
Oh my gosh, you are speaking on so many things, even from just a experiential history of decades of working on this, where I say, we must reframe to resonate. We've got to change. And where I have been spending lots of time analyzing what the problem is I'm beginning to see that perhaps we've put ourselves in such a box as a sector. We don't know how to come out of that box in a way that is advancing with culture, right? You just said we're still communicating the way we were in the 50s, which is anybody knows that in business, to survive, you have to adapt to your surroundings. So to think that you're serving your mission in today's day and age by using the same tactics that you were using 20, 30, 40 years ago, you can't be. Communities have changed, demographics have changed, societal norms have changed. Why has it been so difficult for traditional arts to adapt to those changes.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. Was it's comfort.
Yeah.
It's comfort, and they've been handed.
Complacency, complacency.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. 100%. Oh, 100%. They've been handed this down by the people who taught them how to manage arts organizations. So it's been handed to them, and now they're the ones that are really being asked to change everything. So that's hard for them. And the but they still, the audiences are dwindling for most of these groups, and you have to answer to that somehow. We have to answer for this somehow. If you've gone from 1,200 people in 2002 down to 400 people today, and really, and I wanted to get into the statistics about how America has grown so much between, okay, classical music audiences, we lost 62% from 1982 to 2022. And so that's a 62%, that's a 60% decrease approximately. Yet America grew from 220 million people to 347 million people in that same time period. So we've had a lot, we have a much larger group to market ourselves to than we
Mhm.
had 40 years ago, and yet we've gone the other way.
Right.
We have to address this. We have to address this. And, you know, if we fulfilled our potential, if we really fulfilled our potential, this just came to me that we might be able to cover expenses with ticket sales if we really fulfill our potential. And but people are listening, and also on the same note, there's so many more people for us to market ourselves to. I've been looking at these classical music listenership studies, Angela, and one was done by Prime Phonic and one was done by Media entertainment research company, and the other is the streaming service for classical music. And interesting statistics, younger people are listening to classical music. And one study was 23, one was 31, one was 35. 31% of Americans are listening to classical music regularly, according to Prime Phonic. And of those people, and I took this one from the Media study, the 50% of those people are listening actively. And these studies were done young, middle-aged, and elderly people. So it's representative of younger people. But only at this point, 4.6% ever attend a concert. And that's about 16 to 20 million, something like that. So you got 103, it's 103 million people is what 31% comes out to approximately. And 88, so it's about roughly 90 million people are listening, about 50% of them actively. So that means younger people are listening to classical music. So the 45 million people, they're waiting for our message, and they want us to hold out a hand to them. And if we come up with a compelling message and know how to get that message to them, which is absolutely possible to do.
We have to meet them where they are, right? And you said they're waiting for us to put out a hand. So if I was the executive director of an orchestra and I said to you, okay, Alex, I don't even know where to begin. Where do I start? What are 2 or 3 things that I can do now to shift so I am relevant, or I am breaking down the barriers or meeting that Gen Z where they are? What can I do?
Right. You have to develop, well, I think what they were asking for a little bit, excuse me, in the League of American Orchestra study, and also other studies I've seen on attrition of the audience, was they want more experiential benefits. They want a greater experience. And and so you need to, one of the things you can do, one of the things I did with the group, we had dramatic increase in subscribership over the last 2 years of 86%. Now, it wasn't all because of these benefits, but as part of it was increasing the audience, the experiential benefits. One of them, it's a subscriber lounge. We instituted a subscriber lounge. We have a 50% fall off of first year subscribers, according to League of American Orchestras. So there's attrition there too. You have to have a spare room in your auditorium to do it. And it says, and other factors have to sync up for it, but it's a good idea. It's worked. Now it's worked in helping to break the ice with those people. You can open up your subscriber lounge to single ticket buyers to give some occasionally, if it's big enough, to give them a taste of what it's like to be a subscriber and meet other people. That's an experiential benefit. Another experiential benefit, restaurant discount dining privileges. We instituted that. Showing people having fun. Now, and I'm going to get to this in a moment, that you have to market it well. You can't just have this and place it on your website and think that
Right.
everybody's going to get to it. That's the key to what you were just saying, is you have to market this to people. And that's a huge part of it. And creating the message that's charismatic, that acclimates, that educates, that entertains, that gets their attention through all this digital clutter and everything else. There's a lot that goes into high quality marketing. And not just 1955 with the standard message, but the point being, about the restaurant discount privileges package. You're showing restaurants in the community, and we're showing pictures of people enjoying themselves. People see that now. That everybody can relate to eating. That's easy to do. Classical music's more of it's daunting to them, and we're debunking the conception that your daughter has and other young people have, and we're showing people having fun. It worked. It helped to get people to subscribe. It's not so much that we're bringing all this business to those restaurants, where they're helping us to further our message and get across what you said. There's other ways of increasing the experiential benefits too. Conductors talking more, letting them know about the pre-concert lecture. There's a lot of ways. So experiential benefits is one of them. In other words, I would definitely say.
So a couple things that I want to remember. One is, you said, they're putting their phones down when they reach 24, 25. And I just had a conversation today describing these millennial Gen Z's conversations that I've been conducting now for the last, I don't even know, 4 or 5 months. And I repeatedly hear and am surprised that they're getting rid of social media. They when they get out of college, they're getting rid of all of it, if not all but one, or they just stayed away and maybe they're on one now. They don't watch television. They don't have cable or satellite subscriptions. They're getting information word of mouth from their libraries that have these culture passes now, from the local community newsletters on what's happening in town. One even said to me, market with a brew company, like a local brew, and do something, because if I saw something where I'm going to eat or grab a beer with friends or a beer truck, it's like, yes, I would want to try that out. They're not getting the message, because what I see repeatedly is nonprofit arts on my social media feeds, plural, that are paid ads. But of course, I'm going to get those ads because that's the business that I'm in, and that's what I'm continually looking up. So it's coming to me, but it's not getting out. So one suggestion that I had was, think like a brand. And rather than paying Facebook, bring a millennial Gen Z couple in, give them a couple tickets to go to a show, and have them create content, pay them to create content for their own friends, or have them share that experience in their own channels, whatever that is. Number one, right? And so you brought up the cross promotion with restaurants and all of that. It's how can we start thinking outside the box with the communications, because I believe the assumption is that they're all on social media anyway, and perhaps no, maybe it's just my generation that's on social media, and it's not the millennial Gen Zs. They're getting away from that more and more. Is that also what
Interesting.
you're seeing?
Interesting. Yeah, no, that's an interesting point you make. And like I said, yeah, they are putting down their cell phones by the time they're 24 and starting to realize this can't just all be instant gratification all the time. And they're starting to feel isolated, is what you're